going on? Captain Paul from TSP. If you would kindly like, comment, and subscribe, helps us with the algorithm. Joe Rogan said on his recent Spotify episode, or I should say Spotify podcast, that gun control shouldn't happen. And that criminals are the only ones that will be able to have guns if they do get rid of the Second Amendment. He also has tweets back 2013 that we do not have a gun problem in this country, we have a mental health problem in this country. I think he is actually kind of right on the head there, in my opinion. We do not have a gun problem in this country. We do have a mental health issue. Because we used to have, back in the 70s, 80s, people would bring rifles to school to go hunting afterwards, and they wouldn't have these mass shootings. But what has changed is the mental health deterioration of the younger generation. We have kids that are overly prescribed pills, overly depressed, and even the economic status of this country, how younger people have a far more difficult time of making money and, living on their own, building their own success. We are the younger generation is the first generation that is going to do worse than their parents did. I feel like getting rid of the right to bear arms, getting rid of rifles, getting rid of pistols. When people are that mentally unstable, they will find other means to do evil deeds. You can go to your local Home Depot and find materials, and I'm not going to list what, but you can find materials if you really wanted to do some vile shit. You could really wreck some shit and kill dozens and dozens of people, if not hundreds. I think the gun is just the tool. The human being is the one that is committing these atrocities. And the human being is what we need to fix. You have a lot of young men that I feel like get into this state of mind where they're so desperate they do this. And point blank, you even have some shady ties with some former government ties, like with the guy with the buffalo, and we'll see how that plays out. I'm not gonna, say that's a definite or that's exactly what happened, but when more information comes out, it'll be interesting to see what exactly a former FBI agent had to do with the buffalo shooting. Now, what Joe Rogan is saying, I believe, is correct. When you start giving the government more control and more power over you, the more totalitarianism happens. The more rights that you will get stripped away. Because look at the tendencies of the government, even with an armed populace, where they just want to dictate your everyday life. You have leaks like the NSA, where your phones are getting tapped and your personal information. Look what Biden passed with the banking of essentially having access to every American's bank accounts at a whim. The Second Amendment is a way to protect ourselves from federal overreach. And I feel like the only reason we do not have total government control of our everyday lives is because of the Second Amendment. Because the Second Amendment protects the First Amendment. Now, I have a lot of European viewers here that will occasionally comment. I think seditionalists, I forget exactly what country you're from. And I will concede we grew up in very different societies. So our worldviews are going to be shaped and very different. But generally, even in European countries, heck, I'll even go to Canada, right? When they had that trucker convoy come, where it's a lot more difficult to get firearms in Canada, it's actually kind of a pain in the ass. You essentially had police going door to door with certain people that be posting on social media and being like, oh, did you post this on social media, and checking you. In a lot of those countries where they have given up their guns and they've given up their rights, the government has far more say in their day-to-day. Places Australia people like to constantly reference of, they gave up their guns. Well, first off, population size completely different. And if you look at the numbers, there wasn't a huge amount of gun owners compared to America on percentage base. So they had a big buyback crowd. Oh, look, there's no shootings, but there's stabbings, there's other things that go on in Australia. In Australia, the government, and especially if you look at the last few years, has overreached a lot, and the population's upset, but there's not much they can do. Now, am I condoning going fucking wild and shooting up the place? No, democracy should be something that's done, but I would be very cautious to ever give up my right to bear arms. Because just for the example with Australia, right? Where they say, oh, nobody has a gun, or other countries where it's very difficult. Like, you have places like Switzerland, you have other European countries that were more neutral, like Finland. They armed their citizens, and their citizens were trained, and there wasn't this issue. There wasn't these massive issues of mass shootings. What you have here, in my opinion, is a society that mental degradation is going on, mental instability. These young men are feeling at the lowest point in their lives, and whether they're doing it out of some wacko theory or they're being influenced by outside sources, they are such a desperate point in their lives, they actually do those deeds. Let's have that conversation. What could we do to, potentially stop this thing? I think there'd be a false narrative. I see a lot of conservatives say, oh, having a gun, good guy with the gun stops a bad guy with a gun. To a certain extent, yes, but I'm not saying I don't believe in arming teachers, especially if they're not trained. That can just lead to a whole fucking flurry of other issues. Potentially, I think that there should be, an entry point and then a check-in with the receptionist, and you go in there. Like, there's places that have metal detectors. You can go maybe something of that ilk. There's a lot of different protocols we could even try to kind of tighten up the school security. But more than ever, you can put a guy in a gun. I mean, you can put an officer in there, an actual police officer in there. You can do many different things to have a deterrent if there is a shooting. But what I think's not being discussed is actually, in these schools where there's bullying, in this school where there's people making fun of another, I think that needs to be taken far more seriously than it is. Because generally these people that do these mass shootings are the pariahs of society. And they feel like they have given to that point, and they feel like they have no other turn to go to. Now, I'm not saying every single shooter has a, sympathetic backstory, but mentally, these kids aren't right. And we need to start taking action to, stop this. Mental health in America has come a far way relatively recently, but we still have a lot longer journey to go. And we need to make sure that we give these kids an avenue to make sure that they know there is a path to success. So I'd be interested to know what your thoughts are down below. And while I close this video, I deleted a couple of my videos because I was like, okay, let me reword this in a certain way where I'm not extremely tired and I can kind of have more of a cohesive conversation with someone. I stand by everything I post, but I do think in a certain way there's a better way I can word things. And when I'm on the boat, admittedly, you don't get as much sleep as usual. But if you have watched this long and you enjoyed the conversation, or enjoyed my monologue, I should say, I appreciate it if you like, comment, and subscribe. We here on TSP have a forum of open conversation, debating ideas. So for Captain Paul, before my phone goes off, I'm done talking my shit, and I'll see you in the next episode. Later, guys.